Today is 29th December, and the essence, sweet children, you will celebrate a holiday. That means you will enjoy life as you do when it is a festival time. In the land of happiness for half the cycle, because there is no sign of sorrow there. And the question is, what method does the Father show you Brahmin children to make your lives profitable? And the answer is, sweet children, if you want to make your lives profitable, then use your body, mind, and wealth in Baba's service. Follow the Father, follow Brahma Baba. And then you will see what you receive in return. You children will become golden. So golden has a number of meanings, and one of them is that your body will be healthy and beautiful. So you will receive Kanchan Kaya, the beautiful golden body, and you will also receive a lot of wealth. And the song is, at last the day we had been waiting for has come. Om Shanti. The Father says Om Shanti, Shri Baba says Om Shanti. Dada also says Om Shanti. And you children also say Om Shanti internally. When any of you give a lecture about Gyan, you begin with Om Shanti. And everyone sitting there also responds saying Om Shanti. The response would definitely be given. You children understand that you are now meeting with the Supreme Soul. It is remembered, there is a well-known saying, that souls remained separated from the Supreme Soul for a long time, and ultimately there was a beautiful meeting through the broker. The broker is Brahma Baba. So you meet the one that you have been separated from personally. He comes to play his own part. On the path of bhakti, you were searching for him so much, and finally the day arrived when you encounter him. Bharat is the only imperishable land. All other lands are perishable. That means that India is on a tectonic plate by itself, and the other continents are on tectonic plates which will break up. And during the large and small destruction, the form of the other continents will be completely different. But India will retain its integrity. There is only Bharat in the New World. There are other places, but not populated. Bharat is never destroyed. It continues for all time. Now, there are so many populated lands. When it was the kingdom of the deities in Bharat, no other lands were populated. There were only the people Well, there were people only in Bharat. And there were no other people in Bharat besides the deities. It was only the kingdom of the Sun dynasty deities. And nothing remains from that except the images of the deities in temples. There should be memorials of them, shouldn't there? The tree of humanity is very small at the beginning, and it is called the kingdom of Ram. The kingdom of God was established by God. But now it is a devilish kingdom, but in the golden age, it is the kingdom of the deities. And the kingdom established by God, Shivale, persists for half the cycle. And then there is the kingdom of Ravan, which comes later. That is the viceless world, whereas this is the vicious world, vice-based. No one in the world knows how the world cycle turns. That means they think there is progress, and they think it's more like a spiral. They don't know that there is devolution. They don't know what happened to the deities, and they don't know how those who were pure became impure. They must descend the ladder, and the degrees of spirituality continue to decrease. When there is an eclipse of the moon, they believe they must make a donation to remove the eclipse. This is symbolic for a shadow of Maya comes over your intelligence, and you no longer know what is the right action to do. So when this happens in the confluence age, and you do something, special tapasya, then you can get, that can be removed, you can get free from it. The Father says, now you must renounce the 5 vices. When you are liberated from the jail of Ravan, the kingdom of Ram will be established. And the 5 vices are not there in the golden age, but no one knows this. Because of the stories, they think that the 5 vices have always existed. People in the world have many different concepts. And you have one ideology, which is called Advait Mat. So in India, there is a big debate among the religious authorities about Dvait and Advait. And it is on the basis of this debate that they prove that God is omnipresent. And Baba says that their concept of Advait Mat is inaccurate. But your concept of Advait Mat that he gives is accurate. So Advait Mat means that what he tells you, the knowledge of the cycle, the knowledge of the soul, the knowledge of God, the knowledge of karma, is integrated and self-consistent, and that is Advait Mat. But they have a completely different approach to things, and they think Advait Mat means everything has to be one thing, and it corresponds, I think, to Einstein's general theory of relativity, where everything is held together with one law. So here in the Iron Age, there are devilish dictates. That means there are ideas which are based on observation of the material world. That is what is meant by devilish dictates. You people of Bharat know that you were in the kingdom of Ravan, and those who were worship-worthy became worshippers. This knowledge fits in your intellects now. You know that we were worthy of worship, and by continuing to take birth, we declined and became worshippers. Those people means the people of Vedic India, the people who follow the Shankaracharyas, they say that God becomes worship-worthy and then a worshipper, because everything has to be all one thing. So whatever applies to anyone also applies to God. And they also say that God is Krishna. And so then his divine activities, everything that's going on in the world is all what they call God's Leela. And so they believe that God is doing everything and we are just figments of his imagination. So this is a big mistake. You children now have the happiness that you have found the Father, that you have remembered for half the cycle. And there is a law that everyone remembers God at times of sorrow, but no one remembers him when there is happiness. So when those same souls become unhappy, then they remember the Father. So the remembrance of God begins in the small destruction when everything became very catastrophic. In the Golden Age, no one calls for the Father. And it is now that the meeting takes place between souls and the Supreme Soul, or the Supreme Soul and souls. Only the Father is the ocean of knowledge. And this does not refer to water. There is a huge Kumbh Mela that happens during the confluence age. So ultimately all souls will have an encounter with God. And you now are participating in the true meeting when you meet Baba, when you come to the gathering in Madhuban, this true meeting, which is called satsang. Not everyone can meet at the same time. Some come from one place and others come from another place. In the Kumbh Mela, many hundreds of thousands of people bathe in those gatherings, and they have been bathing in the Kumbh Mela for birth after birth. And they believe that the Kumbh Mela has taken place since the beginning of time. They speak of a big and a small kumbh. So kumbh is not actually a confluence. Kumbh is a pot. And so it's the meeting of the pot. And this is symbolic. And the pot is the head of Brahma Baba. So your meeting with Shiv Baba takes place because Shiv Baba comes into the head of Brahma Baba, and then you can have a meeting through the sense organs. So they use this word kumbh for the big meeting, but they don't know why it should be a meeting of a pot, because they don't know the symbolism. So the Father comes only once to purify you. Now, if you say the Ganges is the purifier, then it doesn't have any connection with knowledge. Ganges is water. They think they get pure by bathing in water. But the Father is the purifier, And he's sitting here telling you the knowledge of the beginning, the middle, and the end of the world. And through that, you become purified. You children know the current condition of the world. And some children had visions of destruction. This Brahma is Arjuna. And so in the Gita, the chariot that Krishna is driving, speaking to Arjuna, refers to the human body of Brahma Baba. So Brahma Baba tells how he renounced everything when he had a vision of destruction, and he also saw that he would achieve the kingdom. So he immediately renounced his home, that means his family, and everything else. Destruction must take place, and it is nothing new. We pass through destruction many times. This is the court of God, not a law court, but a kingly court. And anyone who is not celibate is not allowed to sit here. Because of not practicing celibacy and coming here, the consequences would be that he would go to the extreme depths of hell. And this is the reason why those who are not celibate are not allowed to come here at all. But people like that do come here. And they think, well, how would anyone know whether or not we indulge in vice? But Baba says that is a very unclean thing. Abroad, prizes are given to parents who give birth to quadruplets or quintuplets. At that time, not anymore. They just began in the 60s. There's medicine for enabling people who had fertility problems. And so they would, when it was successful, they would get many children at once. So in the golden age, they just have one son, and not through vice of lust. The kingdom of Ravan is not there at all. That is the kingdom of Ram. When a young girl gets married, she is given a trunk, which is locked. And in that trunk, she's given many things, saris, gold, all sorts of things, which are for sustaining her throughout her married life in case she doesn't have any other source. And then they just give her the key so that there's no display of what she has been given. And the father also says, children, I am giving you a donation secretly, not displayed. Can anyone tell what I am giving you? This is incognito, secret donation. In India, there is a belief that if you give donation and you make a big song and dance about it and display it and have your name on a plaque and everything, that the result of that donation would be not very good. So it's much better to give secretly so no one knows. No one can understand that you BKs will become the masters of the world. You now understand that you were the masters of the world and that you have taken 84 births. We claim our inheritance from Baba every cycle. And you say, Baba, we meet you every cycle. And we met you in the previous cycle also. Sheep Baba is called Ram, but that does not mean Ram of the Silver Age. That Ram Chandra would be called Baba only by his own children. But this one is the unlimited father, Sheep Baba, The Father now tells you, children, imbibe divine virtues and become like the deities. People praise those deities a lot, but they don't understand who they are. They just sing praise to the deities. There is a huge difference between Ram and Narayan. But in the prayers, they combine them. They say Ram, Narayan is one and the same person. And so when they describe the deities, where the description of different deities is mixed, so everybody has the same description, then you can't understand who they are and what is the meaning. So Baba gives us a clear difference between the Golden Age and the Silver Age. Everything is now explained to you in a nutshell. The path of devotion begins at the time of the Copper Age. And you have to go around the cycle of 84 births, declining. 84, the cycle of 84 is remembered. 84 births is not remembered, but the cycle of 84 is remembered, but they don't know what that is. They remember 8,400,000 births. So Baba asks you, will all of you who are sitting here take 84 births, or will some of you take 80 or 82 births? Will everyone pass? Will there be a greater or smaller number of births for those who leave Baba? Each one's part is according to his stage. There are many who will be amazed by this and come, and then later on run away. So in that case, they could not come into the Golden Age. They would defame Baba or cause defamation. That means people who leave Baba, they said to everybody, this is right, this is true, etc. And then they leave Baba, they say it's not true. And so then other people say, okay, then it's not true. So then Baba says, because of causing that defamation, they will come late, and that too among the subjects. So they will be in the world of heaven, Golden Age or Silver Age, but late. And not all of them can become part of the Sun dynasty. The rosary is created number-wise according to the efforts you make. The Father is the ocean of knowledge, but no one knows what knowledge he has. You are now receiving the knowledge, but they do not understand anything. That is called the path of bhakti. And the festivals that are celebrated at this time refer to this time, and they are celebrated later in the cycle. So whatever happens in the confluence age is turned into a festival from the Copper Age onwards. You have the holiday of happiness for half a cycle, and there you will not hear anything of sorrow. It is called a holy day. Holiday is a holy day because it is a reference to the fact that you become pure. The Father explains, this is your last birth. When the kingdom of Ravan begins, it is called the world of death. So there is a slogan, death to the land of death and victory to the land of immortality. So this is a reference to the demonstrations and marches that were going on in Gandhi's time, where they would say death to so-and-so and victory to so-and-so else. So this is a play about happiness and sorrow, about Ram and Ravan. You gain the kingdom through Ram Shiv Baba, and you lose the kingdom through Ravan. Ravan means concepts based on observation of the material world. That's Ravan. So the father says, you do not know your own births, but no one else can say this. Only the father tells you this. Those people speak of 8.4 million births. And in that case, the duration of the cycle would be hundreds and thousands of years. But nothing enters their intellects. In other words, they cannot compute what they're saying. If it's 8.4 million births, then how long does it take? So they cannot understand these things. They can't compute it. The duration they have written for the cycle is incorrect. All these scriptures belong to the path of bhakti. Everything is explained to you, children, very clearly. And as you make further progress, everything will be explained to you in an even better way. When someone dies, people experience vairagya because a dead body, you don't have the same relationship with a dead body. So this is called samshani vairagya. They call it this feeling of disinterest, which is not actually disinterest, but it's just a realization that a person is not a body. But that will only last for a short period of time. And when they leave the cremation ground and go to the market, they forget all that and buy meat and alcohol. At this time, you children have vairagya for the whole of the old world. You don't have a stake in it. Baba explains there are two types of vairagya. So those of the path of isolation, the sannyasis, they have limited vairagya. That means they have this feeling for their family and business and wife and children. So they would never give knowledge for the family path. They say that they're trying to have a karma. And so they think that karma is to do business and raise a family. But Baba says anything you do is karma. It's not limited to that. So in order to get akarma, they think akarma means no karma because they want to be free from karmic bondage. So they say, well, if we leave our family and business, then we have no karma. But it's not true because they get fed by family people with whom they come in karmic bondage. So then they take rebirth to those people and they don't get to nirvana. So that doesn't work. Those people cannot say that both husband and wife must be celibate. And they cannot relate the Gita because the knowledge of the Gita is that for family life. You receive knowledge from the ocean of knowledge. Those people, the Shankaracharya people, the Vedantic people, they do understand what you're telling them, but they are afraid to acknowledge it because if they do, then their people would leave them and they would lose their livelihood. So they won't say anything publicly. As you make further progress, they will accept that it is true that Krishna could not have spoken the Gita. But if they were to acknowledge that now, then they would lose all their followers because their followers would immediately say that the BKs had cast a magic spell on them. And now the father explains, if you want to become deities, then you must imbibe divine virtues. And the main practice is purity. So you can see how impure the food and drink of people is. And they are sinful souls since many births. Not a single one is a punya atma. Punya atma is one who performs pure karma. So it's more than charity. You are now becoming punya atma. In the golden age, all are punya atma. I can't have any charitable souls in the golden age because there's no need for any charity. So it can't happen. There are only the elevated and pure beings, whereas here, people are corrupt and impure. There are no 5 vices in the golden age. There is a lot of difference between the kingdom of Ram, the kingdom of God, golden age and silver age, and the kingdom of Ravan. Excuse me. A lot of difference between the kingdom of Ram and the kingdom of Ravan. The world today is called the kingdom of Ravan. Only God the Father is the purifier. And you know that he is your unlimited Father. The creation, that is the children, remember the unlimited Father, the Creator. Baba has explained that in the Golden Age, you have only one Father. And then in the Copper Age and Iron Age, 2 fathers, one Lokik and one Paralokik. And now you have 3 fathers, your Lokik, your Paralokik, Shiv Baba, and then the Alokik father, Brahma Baba. On the path of devotion, they use this expression, the subtle father, for Brahma Baba, but he's only subtle when he's in the soul, subtle regions, but he didn't start off like that, but he was still alokik while Prajapita Brahma, so it's not the subtle one. On the path of devotion, while having a worldly father, a biological father, they still remember the incorporeal father from the soul world. Here, it is extraordinary. Both Shiv Baba and Brahma Baba are sitting here. The souls of both are sitting here in the body of Brahma Baba. You children know this, but yet you forget it again and again. Prajapita Brahma has been remembered, and you meet him at this time. So Prajapita Brahma is in the corporeal form, and Shiv Baba is incorporeal. So the incorporeal and the corporeal one are combined. So incorporeal Shiv Baba and the human soul, Brahma Baba, they both are in the highest positions. Incorporeal Shiv Baba, the Supreme Being, and the soul of Brahma, the highest of all human souls. No one is higher than they, and yet they are sitting here heavily disguised. This study is easy for you children, simple, clear, coherent, not particularly easy, but it's very clear. The Father says, consider yourselves to be souls. Souls are imperishable. Bodies are perishable. A soul leaves a body and takes another. So there's no need to cry when someone leaves the body. People cry because they remember the body that they were attached to. So the big deal is to become detached from your own body. And that question arises only when you're close to your death. Because before you're close to your death, it doesn't come up really. It comes up theoretically, but not practically. So you do not need to cry. That means the prospect of losing everything, especially your identity and ability to control your life, should not cause you emotional distress. Of course it does, but that's what he's saying. In the golden age, they do not cry. They're so grounded in soul consciousness that leaving a body is no big deal. They don't relate to each other as bodies, just as we don't relate to each other in terms of what car you drive, right? They are all the conquerors of attachment. All these things are explained to you at the confluence age. So you should experience a lot of happiness when you see the picture of Lakshmi and Narayan. And this is why the Father has said you should keep a badge or a medal of Lakshmi and Narayan and the Trimurti in your pocket. Take it out of your pocket and look at it again and again. This is what Brahma Baba used to do in his path of devotion with the picture of Narayan. He was a devotee of Narayan. So you look at this picture and you say, hey, I am going to become this, and you will be very happy. Show it to others and they will be happy. We are becoming this. They will be happy when they see it. I am Shiv Baba's child, so I don't need to worry about anything. If there is loss, financial loss, don't worry. Realize that we are becoming multimillionaires for our next 21 births. You see, Baba gave everything. So are you in profit or in loss? There's a story of one brother, Sindhi brother, who went bankrupt. He came in Gyan and went bankrupt shortly afterwards. And so he got upset about that, very upset, because Sindhi business people, a lot of money, but then sometimes big loss. And big loss happened to the family of Mama. She was from a very rich family, but they lost everything for some reason. I don't know what. But does your emotion about your sense of being in profit or being in loss go with what you're gaining from Baba or what you just lost from the Iron Age? So this brother complained to Baba, and Baba told him, look, it was actually better that you lost everything, because if you hadn't lost everything, you wouldn't have come to Baba. And there are many stories of people who are, especially Sindhi people, who lost money. And as long as they had money, they were against Baba. But then when they lost everything, they took solace from Brahma Kumaris. So there is a relationship with this. So are you in profit or are you in loss? Baba is now explaining to you personally, all this wealth and prosperity that you have will turn to dust. And if you want to make your life profitable, then use your bodies, minds, and wealth for service and see what you receive in return. You souls become golden. You receive beautiful bodies and you will get a lot of wealth. Acha. To the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the mother, the father, Bap Dada. And the spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children. Spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. So the essence for dharna, I think like this. I am a child of Sheep Baba, and I will become a millionaire for my future 21 births, multimillionaire, gazillionaire. Stay in this happiness and make everyone happy. Do not worry about anything. So when people really don't have money, it's very difficult to manage. They struggle. Secondly, follow the Advait Mat of the One Father and become an unlimited sannyasi. Follow the One Father. So this is a reference to this big debate between the people of the Vedic India and that kind of Hinduism. Is very, very difficult to get a hold of how Hinduism was before Shankaracharya, because they changed all the scriptures at that time, around 800 years after Christ, which is also the same time when all the Christian theology also changed. So become an unlimited sannyasi means that you renounce the whole world, because not only you have to be detached from your body, but you have to be able to let go of the whole world. So those people who go up in space, they have an emotion when they see the earth from far, because they feel their attachment to the earth. And in order for us to manage the destruction, we have to be able to get past that as well, because you can't allow the destruction of the world to happen unless you, or Baba has said it cannot be possible until everyone gives permission for it to happen. It means it has to get really bad for that to happen. But this is one of the things he said. So follow the One Father. So Brahma Baba had to accept to be fully rejected by the world. It wasn't easy for him. So the blessing is, may you be a world benefactor and carry out the rejuvenation of the world through the virtues of spiritual intoxication and mercy. So spiritual intoxication means that you realize what you've got, so you're in that high. That's called spiritual intoxication. But if you become high and you make other people feel that they're low in comparison with you, then that won't work. So you have to have this combination of being in your high, but also mercy for people means that you talk to them in such a way that they feel that it's very possible for them to get what you have, and not that they don't have anything. So in order to be a world benefactor, two main virtues are essential for you. One is the godly spiritual intoxication, the high of what you're getting. And the other is mercy. So if you have the two equally at the same time, then you create a stage of spirituality. That's a very interesting definition of spirituality. That some people, when they're giving charity, they give charity to somebody and make them feel that they don't have anything. And so that person needs to receive that charity, but doesn't feel very good because of the way they made them feel. Oh, you poor thing, you know. I'm so rich and you're so poor, so I'll give you a little bit. But that's very insulting to that person. So you can't do that here. So spirituality is that you are in your high, but you're also communicating it to others, not with them feeling low, but remind them that they can be just as high as you. So when you carry out a task or you speak to people, check that you have this combination of spiritual intoxication and mercy equally. In the pictures of the goddesses, both these virtues are shown equally. And you can become an instrument for world renewal on this basis. So the goddesses never make people feel low. Right? You always get the feeling that they care for you and that they will give you whatever they have, but not because they're high and you're low. So become an instrument for the renewal of the world or the regeneration of the world on this basis. And the slogan is, surrender your waste thoughts. That means your trivial concerns out of love for the Father. That means that there are many things that will happen and that Baba will do which go against the grain because you're operating on the basis of conventional morality, so you will disagree with it. And then your relationship with Baba becomes antagonistic. And then it's not yoga anymore. So give that up out of love for the Father. You may not understand what he's doing, but if you love him, you will go along with it. And maybe later you'll understand, maybe you won't. So Baba says this is the meaning of sacrifice. Sacrifice in the sense of make something sacred. So, Gyan is very clear and coherent, but it's very deep. And it's very easy to talk about it in a superficial manner, but people will not be able to understand it when you do that. So it takes a lot of churning to understand it properly and live it properly. So that's why it takes so many years. Baba has given us years and years. Baba used to say, using round figures, the confluence age is 100 years. But the question always arises when you're doing service, as a service in the sense of you're communicating this knowledge. So you have to make a decision when you're communicating it. What do you want to convey to the people? And I was meeting some people yesterday who were from India, but they have lived outside India many years and in Europe. But they have family here in the United States, so they're visiting. And both the husband and wife are pretty high-end scientists. And so they're very well educated in science, but they also have a very good background in Hinduism. And so they come here to find out what is Gyan. And the man is very, very aware of his command of science. And, his wife was really more spiritually sensitive. And they came together, and I've met them a few times. And, what motivates me if I'm talking to someone is to try to find out where there is a convergence between Gyan, as Baba says, whatever he says, and the things that they believe, where there is a point of contact. Because the way that Baba teaches, you'll notice, for example, in the Murli today, he mentioned some of these aphorisms. One of them is, if there is an eclipse of the moon, they say you must give donation and then the eclipse will go away. So this is quite widely spoken in India. And India is a place where many people are superstitious. So this is an example of a superstition, and everybody's heard of it. They don't necessarily believe it, but they know it. And they've heard of it so much that it's part of the culture. But when Baba explains what it means, and you tell someone who believes that what it means, then it opens up their eyes. And so then they take seriously what Baba says because it opens up their eyes. If you say something to people where there's no point of contact with what they already accept and believe, then their eyes will not open. So the other point that came in the Murli of that nature was that there's a law that in happiness, no one will remember God, and in sorrow, people will remember God. So most people, they've heard of that, but they don't accept it because it doesn't make any sense to them. And they say, well, I'm going to remember God when I'm in happiness. And so this law, they don't accept it. They heard about it, they know it, but they don't know. They don't have any good reason to accept it. So when you explain to them in such a way that they get it, their eyes open. And every time their eyes open from some point of contact between Gyan and where the person is, they can't deny it, you see. And so you get like this many, many dots of point of contact. And then it becomes very difficult for the person to refute what you're saying. And so I use these points that Baba gives to do that, especially with people from India who are very familiar with Hinduism. You see, the people from the West who come in Gyan, they have no clue. They have not read the Gita. And they have not read the Upanishads, the Vedas. A few people have, very few. And when they come along, then, you know, you have to talk to them in terms of how they learned it, which is overlaid on their existing cultural and religious background. So then you have to go through 2 layers of point of contact. But otherwise, for Western people who haven't created all that background, they have no option but to accept everything blindly. And if you have had a very powerful spiritual experience and recognized Baba, and this is what happens, right? He'll give you an experience and you'll recognize some parts of the knowledge when you come into Gyan, but when it comes to the Murli, where there are all these references to different Hindu aphorisms, scriptures, sayings, beliefs, superstitions, and memorials and festivals and all of this, you don't have that. So you have no choice but to accept what your BK teacher says. You have no choice. Well, if you have a good teacher, it's nice, but everybody is number wise. So I think it's really nice if we can somehow acquire all this so that you get the context. Because when you understand Gyan in a bubble, it doesn't give you the amount of power you need to handle what's coming, because you will have the belief, right? Baba this and Baba that, and Baba will take care of everything. But then when everything starts falling apart and you are on your own, and then you have to handle things on the basis of how much power you've accumulated, you will be at a disadvantage because you will not have been able to accumulate sufficient to handle what's coming. And so I think about these things and try to figure out, now, how can we make ourselves sufficiently strong to manage these things, because it's not very easy.
Well, you had Daddy Janki as a teacher, and you also had a self-interest to investigate everything. So
you want the microphone?
It takes both. You have to have a good teacher, and you also have to be interested in doing. So I was saying, Denise Van had Daddy Janki and Gentivan as teachers, so that's fortune. And also she herself was interested in investigating all these things that come up in the Murli. So it takes both ways.
Well, yeah, it does. It does. And also, I think our life experience in Gyan, life experience is very important, because in your life in Gyan, there's scene after scene after scene, test after test after test, which you have to interpret. What does this mean? How is this carrying me forward? Because it always looks like it's taking you away, or it's setting you back, or it's a block, or something like this. And so you have to work with it until it becomes clearly something that's carrying you forward, and then it becomes extra, an addition to your arsenal, because it's an arsenal.
I was thinking, just imagine if Socrates is somewhere here in the Western world. Socrates and Pluto and those people are in the Western world who might, I'm just assuming, who might not have been exposed to all this Vedas and Eastern stuff. But what drive them to think the way they are thinking is their desire to know, why is this happening and what is a better way of living.
No, they knew. They had full exposure, because Plato and Sophocles and all of these people who were the Greek philosophers, their philosophy is built on India. And, in those days, they had all gods and goddesses. And the trade between India and the rest of the world was very full on, very active. And so, yes, they would know. And also people traveled. There was a huge library, the Library of King Solomon, which presumably in Jerusalem, but it was burned, and all that information was there. And I remember as a child, when I heard about this, I thought, oh God, it's all gone. Now what are we going to do? I was a small child, about 7 or 8 years old. I don't know why I had that feeling about it, but
Where was it from?
There was a fire. They have wars and then they burn everything. Like now in the Arab world, where there was all of this war in Syria and these places, so the Taliban destroyed a lot of all this ancient stuff. And so there are people trying to protect it. But it was there. And then you see the main thing that happened is that, you see, Plato was in the 5th century, right? Now these people were in the 6th century. the Shankaracharya and everything. So they were all around the same time. And so Plato, Sophocles, all these people, they knew, Aristotle and all, they knew this stuff. But then it got changed. And so the Shankaracharya is very influential as a philosopher who redesigned Hinduism and changed the scriptures. And you can see, if you study the Gita, you can observe, because they didn't do it very cleverly. I mean, it's obvious how they changed it, which verses they changed, because there's a pattern that you can see in the Gita of how they will take an expression from the ancient, and then they will put one or two little words to change the meaning, and then they will repeat it a few times, which it doesn't need to be repeated. And then they will juxtapose the verses in such a way as to get people to believe something different. It's quite sophisticated, but you can figure it out because you have Gyan. And so I did some work on it to identify the particular changes that were made at that time, because the Gita is dynamic. It's been started off as just a little mantra, Manmana Bhav or something, and then they expand on it. But you see, they developed all these practices for understanding the world by observing this Brahman, what they call Brahman, this element of light. They were able to do practices to discern that, and then they put their experience together with the ancient concepts and interpreted it differently. And so instead of the accurate symbolic meaning which Baba gives us now, they interpreted it differently, and they didn't have God. So they interpreted everything to see or show that everything is this energy, very similar to the general theory of relativity of Einstein. All of it is based on observing matter in a very, very refined way. But you cannot arrive at God through matter. But they didn't know that. And nobody knows that. But then God comes along and says, by the way, neither I am matter nor you are matter. So let's really rethink all this. We have to have a school to study this. But you see how he teaches this. He's not going to teach the philosophers, because they will say, out of my way, who are you? Because he's indiscernible. He's invisible. And so this expression that was in the Murli today is heavily disguised in the body of Brahma Baba, who was completely rejected by the society. And then he came with rejected people, young girls, kids, and doing something new and different. Everybody would say something wrong with this guy. He's cuckoo, So he had to be very, very strong to stay in his conviction and with Shiv Baba against the whole world. It's a very big test when you're against the whole world, as the world is strong. And it was interesting in the Murli today, he indicated that a time will come when the Gyan will be represented in a manner that is more sophisticated. So let's see. But do we have some questions?
On the same lines, so I may be repeating. So there is all the scriptures and everything, the known information is somebody's personal understanding experience is put in words, which is another association. Instead of, with reference to the point of Western people, because they don't have a reference of Eastern philosophy, they may have to accept what Baba is saying in the Murli. They can as well use their own personal experience. It's not now experience, the ancient experience, because if somebody is not a BK, will never get it. If they are a BK, something they have experienced in the previous cycle will resonate with what Baba is telling. And there is no way they cannot accept, because it is resonating with them within. So in other words, I'm taking off that scripture part in between this. Just have Baba and your own personal ancient experience to resonate.
There is a problem with that. And the problem is there's a combination of your interpretation. And this is why whoever BK you talk with, it'll be a little different, one from the other to the other to the other. And so it's contentious, because the variations that arise when you have BKs who do this, they take their own experience, they take what they read and they mix up with Gyan and they say, here, how about this one? Many are doing this. They have to, no option. But the consequence is that you have a big variety of Gyan styles, you can say. And it's a phenomenon. In early days, there were so few who would really churn, and Baba would validate, this one has it right and the other one doesn't have it right. But now there's not anybody to say this is right, this is non-right. And so you get everything mishmash. And so then it becomes difficult to know which is right, because there is nobody, no authority. Baba is the authority, no authority to say this is what it is and this is what it isn't. And I remember one time in the very early days, in the 70s, we were meeting Baba at that time in the meditation hall in Pandabhavan. And there was someone who had done this, created all sorts of funny things with Gyan. And so they brought that person to Bab Dada so that he would tell this person, look, you really don't have it right. But the person still didn't accept it. But all the other people heard that what this person's take on Gyan is, if Bab Dada himself said, no, this has nothing to do with Gyan, you're off track, miles off track. So, I saw that. But what I can say is that because there's no authority that is generally accepted, you see, after Brahma Baba, there were the main dadis. They were authorities, and they would say, this is right Gyan, this is not right Gyan. Now they are gone. So you have 1 million enthusiastic BKs who are convinced that they've got it right. And each one a little different, and some, according to me, wildly off track. But there are many, many people who think that they're right. And then some of them become very famous and very influential, and they do lots of classes, and everybody says, yes, this is the one. And there's quite a lot of differences. So this has created a certain amount of confusion. And so some people have thought that, okay, what we should do is make the Gyan really simple and try to get people to change their sanskaras, be nice to everybody, do nice singing and dancing and all those good things, and then we'll be happily ever after, which is okay until the rubber hits the road, and then we see what happens, because it may not be strong enough to carry people forward. And so we'll see. But it's an interesting moment in the BK history that here we are with all these, internet all over. Everybody's on Zoom, and all day long people can listen to every imaginable and unimaginable form of Gyan. And, let's see. Because you can't really say anything about it, It's a phenomenon. Okay, excellent meaning of sacrifice, to make something sacred. It's a Latin word. Sacra is sacred, and fiare is to make. Sacrifice tends to mean give up, yeah. But the original meaning is make sacred, and I use that quite often. How can we truly prepare ourselves for what's to come, and how do we get pure Gyan? My feeling is, churn the Murli, because, another phenomenon is that whatever level of translation we get, when you churn it, you manage to get the essence, and so it's okay.
Is it same as experiment with it? Will you try it for yourself and take a...
The problem with this word experiment is people make up experiments and then they go that way. So I find myself just staying with this word churning, because the Gyan is encrypted and the translation gives an additional level of encryption. And it's good because this Gyan is so incredibly powerful that if any English-speaking person would spy on it, and of course everybody and their uncle is spying on everybody else, and they find it and they look at it and they say, this is all nonsense, so they don't bother with it. And that means it's protected. So that's good. Even with churning, there is still a risk in inaccuracy of understanding due to the Westerners having lack of knowing the original language. Not really. Even if you don't know the Murli and you don't know the culture, etc., but if you churn enough, it will reveal itself. And this is why it is so amazing that Baba is not limited by any BKs or non-BKs. And I was talking with Sukanya Ben, and she was saying that, remember that God is tricky and he plays tricks on everybody because he has to get through all of this stuff. And so you can have faith that he is so tricky that he will make sure that nothing can get in the way between you and him other than your own negative karma. So this is a guarantee, you cannot worry, you will get it. Okay, what dependable resources are there for gaining understanding into the Indian culture? Well, Google. Google will give you lots. Talk to people. Yeah, that's why we have all this discussion. There's a question, can we standardize this knowledge? There's lots of people trying to standardize it and other people saying, not like that. Don't standardize it that way. Standardize it another way. So I think that anything to standard, the best standard is the Murli. Go with the Murli and churn it, and then you will get, because every single person is a different soul and they will relate to the Murli differently. So this is not like how to make tea or how to make dokra standard version. Even that is different for every person. So standardizing, I don't think it will work. You have opportunities all the time. Every day you get opportunities, and then you have to interpret them and use them. How to self-motivate, get irritated with something, and it'll motivate you to do something about it.
Get upset, get mad.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
It's really quite interesting. The best thing is to get upset with something. You feel fed up. Yes. You know what happens is something's going on that you don't like. And you adjust and adjust and adjust and adjust. And finally you stop adjusting and you say, sorry, Om Shanti, boom. And then you kind of cross the barrier. You know, to cross obstacles, you need force. And so if you get a bit angry about it, it'll actually work quite well. I don't think that's advice. But if you don't get angry, you won't do anything about it. And if you do get angry, you'll explode everything. And so you have to deal with that. So it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. So you have to be very clear what you want to get angry about and with. You know, in the Christian Bible, there's a story about Jesus that he went to the temple in Jerusalem and he saw that there were all these stalls for selling things. And he threw all the tables away and said, don't desecrate my Father's house with this commercialism and all that. So, and that wasn't advice. That was, hey, you know, get rid of all the nonsense. Because otherwise, if you don't allow yourself to be forceful, then you get walked all over. And that doesn't look very spiritual. So you have to watch out for people who want to take advantage of your belief in not getting angry. There are many like that.
Today, Baba said, every day you're going to have a holiday in the Golden Age. And holiday was an English word. And when I used to have a day off, Chandruben used to say, oh, you have a holiday. So I said, no, it's not a holiday, because in my mind, holiday is like a vacation. You go somewhere for 2-3 weeks or a month. And so I said, it's just a day off. But in India, they say holiday, meaning it's your day off. You don't have to go to work.
Right.
So then Sukanya Ben later said, Kyoko Ben, holiday means you don't have to go to work. And then I understood the context. This kind of things in the Murli happens a lot, because it says in English, we think in one way, but it's not what it is. So, you know, if we have people who can help you understand these things, it's very good.
It's very good. Yeah. No, it is quite an issue, because the English language is international. And there are more Indians who speak English than people of any other nationality. And so in English, as interpreted by an Indian, is now the dominant form of English within culture. And so the English that Brahma Baba uses is English as it was used in the 1920s by the British in India. And your expression for holiday is American English. Even in England, holiday is also day off. but not as much as it is in India. So the English changes according to cultural and political influence. It takes this like track, which also takes a certain amount of time to reach another part of the world. And positively channeled anger, forceful astuteness. Yes, I like that. Chutzpah. Yes. So everything is beneficial, including all the trouble. Because if it gets bad enough and you get angry enough about it, then you'll push it. And maybe it'll work out nicely. But whatever it is, we have to go along merrily. And if you've got a good sense of humor, it's very helpful. Intoxication? Intoxication, Vida, Om Shanti. It's you get high on that you understood something important. That's what it is. And otherwise, intoxication refers to alcohol. So we're not really into that. But when you get like very enthusiastic and you understand it and you think that you're the only person in the whole world who's understood it, you can get carried away. But he wants us to understand what we're getting and realize how valuable it is, how great it is, and really enjoy, because that's when you really take it in. And if you take it in a flat way, then it wouldn't have that power to inspire you to share it with other people or so. It's like when you discover a really good product on the market and then you tell everybody about it, or you must get one of these. It's that sort of thing. Okay. Om Shanti.